At age 12, I remember asking my dad to take me to the eye doctor because I wanted glasses. Now, why did I want glasses? It was because I thought the average nerd needed glasses to complete the look. At age 13, I remember trying it again. And then at age 14, I remember looking at the sun to try and spoil my eyes just so that I could get glasses. Now, the thing is, I believe that by looking at the sun, I'll get maybe short-sightedness or long-sightedness. Now, obviously, that's not true, but I tried very hard. But every time I made a visit to the eye doctor, I was told my eyes were good. So I never did get those prescription glasses, but at the very least, I stayed smart and just kept learning and learning and learning. So in my head, at least, mentally, I fit the profile of a nerd. Now, why did I want this? Why did I want to fit the profile of a nerd? Well, it's because I had been sold this story that to be smart, you had to wear glasses, you had to say cool stuff, you had to be able to just come up with some random facts. But who sold me this story anyway? It was Hollywood. As a child or as children, we all watched movies in which we saw the intelligent kid wearing glasses and, having a particular mannerism and just a number of other things that fit the persona. Now, in this episode, I'm going to talk about soft power. And Hollywood is just one means of America exerting their soft power on the rest of the world. Now, soft power is not necessarily a bad thing. No, would I say it's a good thing? It's just a thing. And like every other thing, you can use it to your advantage. Soft power can, strictly be defined as the use of persuasion and attraction to influence nations, as opposed to, military might and all that really hardcore stuff. Now, that's what soft power is. And I sincerely should just say at this point that I believe soft power as a term is a misnomer, because it's actually way more powerful than what is termed hard power, that's military might and all of those things. Soft power is way more powerful, has more effects, and can change the entire terrain of a nation that has been influenced by it in months to years. Now, why I want to talk about soft power in this episode because I want to just show you exactly the kind of things that you're being influenced by every day without even realizing it. Soft power in most countries leverages things like culture, so music, movies, books, things like that. Everybody around the world knows Harry Potter. That's soft power. Everybody knows Michael Jackson. Again, that's soft power. And these kind of things, exporting of culture, these are the ways in which you exert soft power. Countries that understand this really do not mind when other people appropriate their culture. They don't mind when other people, adopt things that they are used to doing. However, you see the most Black nations, when they see other people doing things that are native to them, they get offended, they get angry, because you don't understand the concept of soft power. You don't understand that when other people begin to do things that are native to you, it means you are exerting influence without actually trying too hard. That means you're doing something right. But then you start complaining, and then of course they hands up because they want to please you and your low self-esteem. But if you understood that each time they began to adopt that, what you needed to do was emphasize your own rhetoric and your stories behind those things. Make it very plain and very clear that you own it, and this is why it is done in this way. You pay influencers in different sectors to propagate the stories. If you understood things like that, you would actually let people assume your culture and assume things that are native and local to you. You wouldn't just cower anytime you see someone doing it or maybe get very aggressive and start complaining, things like that. Like, it just doesn't make sense. If you see countries that have international and global influence, they allow people to take their culture. I mean, the language I'm speaking currently is English. The reason I'm speaking this language is not just because the country I'm from was colonized by English speakers. It's also because after a long time, the language has been able to spread across the globe. And because of how much that has spread, if you want to communicate with people in large areas of the world, you want to speak a language that they'll understand. And so that's why people like me would adopt English and continue to speak it for a long time. But guess what? It's a language that is native to a location. But today there is something called Nigerian English. And if you actually check most dictionaries, there are certain words that are like you just see right there, it's written Nigerian English. Like, that's why this word exists, because Nigerians speak it this way. But if you flip it and you actually spoke something in a certain way that was native to Nigeria, but you said it maybe as a French person, Nigerians will get angry. They'll just flip and start saying, why saying this? This belongs to us and things like that. It's just small-mindedness. When people begin to adopt your language, that's one of the greatest shows of how much influence you have on them. The fact that the way you speak, they actually want to speak that way. The way you sound, they want to sound that way. That shows you're exerting soft power. But in most regions in Africa, we don't care about soft power. We don't even know what soft power is. You see people in the entertainment industry, they do things, they are happy, and then when they get recognized at the global stage, you see them changing their form, their style of music, their style of movies to fit into the style that they think is global. I remember a few years ago, if I'm not mistaken, there was a movie called, no, I don't want to say the wrong name, but there was a movie done by a Nigerian, Genevieve Naji. And I remember that the movie was meant to win a particular award, but it ended up not winning that award because they said that it didn't use certain indigenous languages. It was just English and some things like that. Now, if you understood the criteria for judging, it's because they want your stuff to represent where it comes from, not just to look and feel English, but to actually look and feel like the locality that it was made from. That's part of what is used to judge. You can cry over it, but it's the truth. If you're not proud of exporting that which belongs to you, then you're not ready for soft power. Soft power is something that every nation that is termed a developed nation actually takes very seriously. You see movies released from China these days. There's this recent animation called Neza. I think it's pronounced Neja. So the second part of that animation was released this year. I think it's been released for just, either this year or last year. It's been released for not really a long time like that, but it's currently the 5th highest grossing movie of all time already. Now, the reason it could achieve this feat was because they did very proper English translations for it. They didn't just do these lazy translations where you're seeing the mouth moving like this and then the person is speaking on that language. It was a proper English dub of the movie, and that was exported. The reason why they know to do things like this is because they're not trying to influence only Chinese or Chinese-speaking individuals. They're trying to influence the world. And if you want to influence the world, you have to speak and translate things into languages other people can understand. You have to be intentional. You have to understand that this thing I am creating is not just for me and my locality, and I should be happy if other people start taking it as their own. And I'll just circle back to the English language. Pretty much every region in the world has their own version of English language. There's American English, there's of course Nigerian English, there's Indian English. There are certain words that are used in certain ways that, in fact, they've just become so normal. For instance, the word revert. Revert is meant to mean to return something to its original state, or just, to transform something to its original state. However, today in the corporate world, you hear people saying, I'll revert to you, or I'll revert back to you, meaning that I'll get back to you on something that I told you already, I would do. That's very wrong usage if you're considering proper English. But in Indian English and now Nigerian English, that's correct. And if you actually Google the word revert, you would see Indian English. It means to get back to somebody or something. Now you see, if that happened to a Nigerian term, you'd find Nigerians crying on Twitter and Instagram saying, that's not how that word is supposed to be used. That's not how it's supposed to be used. And when I say a Nigerian term, I mean something from maybe an indigenous language. Would be crying over it, rather than understanding that the reason why this is happening is because people have been so influenced by the beauty that you have exported that they now want to adopt it as theirs. Your entire purpose when you see something like that should be to explain it and just chime on it, even congratulate them to an extent. Things like this is what will give you a stronger foothold in the minds of people. And the more you do things like this, the more you see governments now pushing back and saying, okay, no, we don't want to import things like this. So you see many nations across the world, when certain movies are released, maybe in China, let's say it's a Hollywood movie and it's released in China, a number of things would be changed. Maybe the cars that were used would be edited and changed to other cars, maybe indigenous cars, because they understand the need to ensure things look and feel like theirs. So this happens pretty much around the world, and it's a play of soft power. These people understand what it means to export things, across the world. Now, let's just give this case study of TikTok. Recently, TikTok was made to sell to sell a large stake to an American, and that way they'll keep data centers in America, and of course they would also have access to some part of the algorithm. The reason is because they want to also be able to influence their people their own way. They know that the algorithm made by the owners would obviously be to the benefit of a certain kind of people. So they understand that. They understand that these people are exporting culture and exporting a message and exporting an agenda, and they don't want that. So they are changing it. It's simple. Like, every nation that understands soft power understands how to defend and how to attack using it, except for, of course, a lot of African nations. We just tend to cry over things like this. Like, we don't know how to allow people adopt our music. Recently, Afrobeat has just gone global, and when we see it in maybe a native of another nation, especially in the West, we complain. We start saying that you're not giving due credit to. That's not what you're supposed to be saying. You're just supposed to be excited about it, and then create documentaries and create exciting stories around it. Let them know that it actually is yours, but you don't mind them using it. You don't mind them adopting it. It's things like this that ensure you're able to exert your influence. But when you become very agitated, when you become aggressive, when people are trying to use that which belongs to you, then it just turns everything on its head and makes things look very poorly planned. Next, I'm going to talk about the main thing that soft power leverages to become soft power. So there is this cognitive bias known as authority bias. Now, authority bias is the tendency to give more weight to the opinions and thoughts of people that you consider to be knowledgeable about a particular topic without giving any thought to the validity of the information that they're really passing across. And so when a nation wants to establish authority bias, what they do is they begin to create a lot of content, from documentary to research to entertainment to a ton of other things around a particular topic, and they begin to export it to various areas, and they do it consistently over a long period of time, so that they sort of own that niche and everything in it. Then next, what they want to do is now create an award system. Now, that award system, what it's going to achieve is give people awards for doing well in that particular thing, so that it seems like not only have you done the groundbreaking research, you're the one who knows about what's the best form of that thing is, and you define what the best form is, so you can point everybody in the direction of what best is in that particular field. And that's what authority bias is. So they utilize that for a long period of time. And so today, just like what I started now, today, if you're thinking of what cool is, your thoughts would most likely be influenced by what Hollywood has taught you cool is. That's sincerely what your thoughts would be. If you're thinking of what maybe a hungry nation is, you would very likely think of Black people. That's exactly what you've been programmed to think. But the reason why that programming is effective is because of authority bias. So if some other person presented a counter narrative, it sincerely will not weigh as much in your mind as that narrative that has been painted by these people who have already engaged authority bias. Well, don't worry, all hope is not lost. There is a method you can use to neutralize authority bias, and it's something I developed. It's called the objectivity lens. Just a 4-step process that ensures that by the time you're done with it or you practice it daily, you're able to let go of all of these things that have held you down. So the first step in the objectivity lens is actually a mental model. First step, what you want to do is strip the title. So let's say you've heard information from a particular place. You want to strip title off of it. You don't want it to come with particular terms. You don't want it to, you don't want to understand or read it using the terms that are commonly used to refer to that particular thing. So that's what you're doing when you're stripping the title. Next thing you want to do is you want to reverse authority. So you want to think about this thing and say, okay, what if a novice told me this? Or what if someone I don't like perhaps told me this? would I still perceive it in the same way? Things like that help you ensure that, okay, you're properly evaluating it. You're properly checking exactly whether this thing on its own, if you leave it to stand, is it okay? Or does it have to be merged with maybe this other person's idea before you think of it as okay? So you also want to evaluate using first principles. That's the third thing. You want to evaluate using first principles. So you've heard something like maybe this is what intelligent people are. So first principles would be to define what is intelligence in the first place, so that you know whether when you're saying this is what intelligent people are like, you're correct or not. And then the last step is to just evaluate everything based on steps 1 to 3. Anything that doesn't pass those 3 steps, you discard it and you're fine. And then just before I go, I want to say one last thing you can practice, often to just help you understand more about the true intent of maybe a particular industry or a particular media type or whatever it is. What you want to do is, let's just assume you're signing on to a service. Try to read the terms and conditions. Now, I know it's very difficult, so I'm just going to give you a simple hack. You can just click on the link to go to the terms and conditions, copy it, paste it in an AI chatbot, and ask it to give you a 10 points highlight of everything that the T&Cs have said, and explain to you any way in which it could negatively affect you. What you've done is just giving yourself access to the true intent behind that app, that service, or whatever it is. It opens your mind and your eyes into exactly what these people meant when they decided to give you this service or this app. And if you just practice things like that daily, you'll find out that you're learning more and more to own your thoughts and stop being influenced by other people's thoughts of people who, are in so-called authority. Thank you so much for your time. Until next time.